In this episode of the Global Travel Channel podcast show, I chat with a lady who loves driving alone. So much so, she decided to drive across 2 continents. Find out why next. Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. My name is Mark Philpott. On the show, we talk to people from across the world about all things related to travel, from amazing adventures to inspiring stories to the not so well-known destinations. We cover it all. You can find all of our previous podcast episodes on our Global Travel Channel website by going to www.globaltravelchannel.com. The Global Travel Channel is a collaboration between travel writers, photographers, YouTubers, podcasters, and bloggers from across the world. We bring you information that we hope makes your next travel experience an awesome one, no matter where you decide to travel to. You can also find the Global Travel Channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, so be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us so that you can keep updated on our new content postings as and when they happen. You can even now support us through our Patreon page. For as little as the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can help us continue to produce this podcast show if you like its content. Now let's get on with today's show. The lady that's joining me today has the same name as my late grandmother, so I'm sure that she is a very special lady as well, as was my late grandmother. So I might even dedicate this show to my late grandmother. Bekker is driving 20,000 kilometers to Zimbabwe. Let's find out where she drove from, what's happened along the way, and why she's actually doing this. Welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, just before I welcomed you onto the show today, I did a little bit of a pre-intro to the show, as I always do, and I'm actually dedicating this particular episode to my late grandmother because she shares the same name as you, and you're the first person I've come across in a long, long time that shared the same name as my grandmother. So we're doing it for a special person today.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And as I said in the intro, I'm sure that you also having that name are a beautiful woman as well. So I'll go with that.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Now, we've got an extraordinary story to listen to today, so I'm not going to take up too much time with my talking, but for the sake of our listeners all over the world, we have listeners in over 60 countries around the world now. Wow. They would love to hear where you're talking to us from today.
Today I'm in Harare in Zimbabwe, which is the capital city of Zimbabwe. But I'm actually I was born and raised in a town called Bulawayo, the second largest town in Zimbabwe, which is a little bit southwest, my present location. And I'm here for a while just sorting out documents, and then I shall return home.
There's a lot of significant things going on in Zimbabwe as we speak, and we'll get onto those a little bit later in the show. But first of all, you've taken quite an extraordinary journey to get back home. So could you tell my listeners exactly, first of all, what the whole journey was about and where did it start exactly?
That's a very big question. I made a significant change in my life about 3 years ago. And I literally left my ex-husband and I took very little with me. So with my 35 plastic boxes and a few €100 in my pocket, I thought to myself, and I don't know if you know, but I'm a business coach. I've been working with entrepreneurs for 15 years. But one of those dumb questions that coaches always ask, I'm sorry, it's always because you never can really get it in context, is the question is, if money was no object, what would you do? Well, money was no object because I didn't have any. So I literally had actually a very liberating canvas of, well, what can I make up? And I decided I wanted to go home. I'd been living in Europe for 20 years, and I really am African. I'm just I just miss the sun and the warmth of the people, and I just miss Africa. So I decided that I wanted to go home, and I was certain that there was something I could contribute here. And then I got this notion that wouldn't it be interesting to drive? Because I've met people in Europe from different countries in Africa than the ones in Southern Africa. And I was fascinated by the stories that they told me and what I had learned about them. So hence started my decision to drive home. And that took me about just over 2 years to put together, as you can understand, with very little money and just a grand idea. It took quite a bit of work to make it happen. And yeah, so that's what I did. And I left from Barcelona in November last year, at the end of November. I had another notion, which was that I was turning 60 last year, and I wanted to be in Africa. I wanted to be back in Africa for my 60th birthday. So 4 days before my 60th birthday, I was in Morocco. So I was technically back in Africa. From there I took the west coast through Western Africa and down through Central Africa and back to Zimbabwe.
The places you've lived around the world sounds like an airport departures board. Cape Town, Manchester in the UK, Tomar in Portugal, Luxembourg, Barcelona, Bulawayo. Of those places, what significance did they have in your life journey as far as your whole personal evolution as a person? Were you always a person that loved travelling?
I kind of left. I think I'm a restless spirit. I didn't know that until recently. But I left Zimbabwe in 1981 when in Bulawayo the factions, the two armies were fighting, and we didn't know how that was going to turn out. And I was quite young at the time. I was 22, so we decided that there might be another lot of instability, and my first husband and I decided that we would leave. So I went and I actually lived in Cape Town for a long time, and then Cape Town was wonderful. It was great, but then the violence started to escalate again, and I was very unhappy about that. And I left Africa, and I think I left Africa, I really have reflected on this a lot, was because I felt very helpless. I didn't know what I could be doing to make things better in Africa. And so I went to Europe, and I ended up in the UK because my second husband was doing a postgraduate there. And so we ended up in the UK. And then I couldn't stand the weather any longer. You know, nobody told me it was so wet. So, and there was so little sunshine. So we left and we went to Portugal, and we fell in love with Portugal. I certainly fell in love with Portugal. It was, I think it's the closest thing to Africa that you can get in Europe. Regrettably, the financial crisis hit Portugal in 2012, and my ex-husband went to Luxembourg, and I eventually followed him there. Luxembourg was a great experience, the richest GDP in the world. It was, how can I say this without being rude? It's a small country it's a country that's smaller than a city. There are 600,000 people in a whole country, a tiny little country. And it's quite limiting in many ways. But it was lovely. It's very beautiful country. And I left Luxembourg and embarked on my journey, planning and getting things done. And I ended up living in Spain for a year because my nephew has a workshop in Barcelona, and that's where I built the inside of my van. So I was there for a year and met some wonderful people, made some lovely friends, thoroughly enjoyed that. And then as much as I love Europe and I love all the good things about Europe, it's also a continent that is in a lot of turmoil, and it's just not my space. It's just not my place. I came back to Zimbabwe. I came back to Africa. As soon as I came to Africa, I knew I was home. I was on my way home. I'm African. I just can't get beyond that.
Now, this is really interesting. I'm glad that we're getting into the philosophical side of this discussion, because a lot of people that have listened to my show so far have used travel as a milestone to change their life journey, as you have done, and leaving a relationship for whatever reason seems to be a very common theme, that people take on a life-changing travel experience, or let's call it an adventure. And in your case, you mentioned the words "the van," and it's probably a good time to start talking about Blue Bella now, because it's much more than just a van. What made you first of all decide to do the trip in a van?
Ignorance. As you said, her name is Bluebell, and she really has her own persona and her own fan base, actually. People will write to me and say, "How are you? How is Bluebell?" And sometimes they're not even interested in me. Sometimes they're just interested in Bluebell. I looked around. I had certain requirements. I had certain requirements that I needed in terms of my safety and the things that I just wanted to have if I was traveling for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was that I wanted to be able to get from the back of my van into the front of my van, whatever vehicle, into the front to immediately depart if that was necessary,
right?
For my own safety. That's not always possible with a lot of vehicles. And some people suggested that I get a roof tent. Well, that was just not going to ever happen because, I'm 60, for heaven's sake. You clambering up a ladder and then come clambering down again in the middle of the night. No, it just wasn't going to happen. It's great if you're in Southern Africa to do that. But, yeah, I just didn't feel safe being in a tent. And I really had no safety issues, but I just felt more secure being in a van. So I looked at vehicles, and I couldn't afford a 4x4. As I said, my budget was very limited, and I had to be realistic and practical about it. And I came to the conclusion that actually, millions of Africans drive through Africa in ordinary vehicles every single day,
right.
And they manage to do it. So why would I not be able to do it? I don't think all of them travel the routes that I had to travel.
Had to or chose to?
Well, I had to travel through, like, for instance, from Nigeria into Cameroon. There was no, we followed GPS coordinates. And, that was it. So there was no official road. There was certainly a track, or what used to be a road before it all got washed away. So I chose a van because it just meant that I could have a little house while I was traveling. I could feel at home. I could have all my things that I wanted to have, and still my life is minimalistic but comfortable.
Now, I'm assuming that you didn't buy a van that was already re-engineered for the job. You actually did quite a lot of construction yourself. Is that right?
Yeah. I was very fortunate to find Bluebell. She only had 54,000 miles on the clock. I bought a British vehicle because in Zimbabwe we also drive on the left-hand side of the road in a right-hand drive vehicle. And she used to be a community van, so she had a big disability lift in the back of the van for it was like a church community bus. So I had to take out extra seats, and in fact I took out all the seats and replaced the front seats. It was probably my most expensive purchase, but well worth it to have comfortable seats. And took out the disability lift, which took 3 men and a forklift. And yeah, that was, and then I had a clean surface to work with. And when I was in Barcelona, my nephew has a workshop. So I learned to use power tools, as all women should.
Yes.
And while the inside isn't perfect, it's certainly none of the lines are straight and none of the woodwork is perfect. But it's totally comfortable. It's been totally functional. It's managed to drive me 20,000 kilometers without too much hassle. So.
And how was the sense of accomplishment when you had finished refurbishing the van?
It was so immensely difficult to work with the wood for me, because I've never really done woodwork. I've done little things. I'm quite handy. But, if I tell you that some of the panels went in and out of that vehicle, I don't know how, countless times, needed a little bit of more off here, needed a little bit more off there. Oh, it was dreadful. Anyway, there were days that I literally sat down crying, thinking, what am I doing? I can't do this. And then when I stopped feeling sorry for myself, I'd get up and carry on. When I was finished, it was like, wow, like, amazing. I was really, really pleased with myself. I can honestly say that.
Was there a christening of the van at that stage upon completion?
No, not really. I mean, I built her. She was parked in the street in Barcelona. I mean, I literally worked in my nephew's workshop, went out, unlocked, fiddled around inside, locked it, went back inside, unlocked it was just a nightmare. But no, what I did do was I took her on a test run and to see whether everything worked and whatever have you. Came back and made a few adjustments, and then just traveled around Spain a little bit. Not a hell of a lot, but I certainly got to see some wonderful places in Spain, in Catalonia, and met some wonderful people there too.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit later about the outpouring of love and support you've had from all over the world as you've done your adventure, but I want to start off by asking regarding the van alterations. Once people started to get word of what you were doing and taking on, even in the local neighbourhood was there people dropping by to help out on the van refurbishment?
My nephew had some skilled people working in his workshop. So he has a workshop with a group of people. So one guy helped me with one of my hinges on my back door was coming apart. So he welded that for me. One of the other guys helped with solar connections, and so I was very fortunate to have him sort that out. My nephew helped me with the solar panel on top and put my shower pipe in on top of the roof and cut holes into the metalwork. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to have the skilled people that I needed. Where I need.
Can you describe to my listeners a bit about the inside of the vehicle and actually what was contained within?
It took a lot of thinking and planning. So lots of people are astonished that I actually have a loo inside, a porta potty inside, and the shower base. They're all pull out, so it's a little bit like a Tetris. So you pull out the shower base from under the drawers, and then I can shower from there. And then I pull out the loo from the cupboard on the side and pull it into the middle, and I can use the loo. It's got a seating area because I wanted to be able to look out the door. So the seating area is opposite the sliding door. Then opposite that is a small kitchen, which I have a 2 gas plate cooker, and underneath that, and a sink, a small basin. Underneath that, I have fresh water and grey water tank, plastic containers, big ones, 3-litre ones. And my gas bottle. I have a cupboard for my clothes, and my bed is based on at the back across the width of the van, because I can fit across there. And my bed is on top of 2 drawers. So there's a chest of drawers facing the middle of the van, the sort of passageway, and a chest of drawers facing the back. So my bed is fully supported by the drawers. The one in the front is for like my cosmetics and bits and pieces. The one at the back is for like glues and wires and tools and all sorts of things. And then I still have some spare storage at the back on the sides, as well as my electric panel, etc. So yeah, that's kind of the construction on the inside.
Now, did you have any major teething issues when you took your trip around Spain to start off with?
Yes. My toilet wasn't supposed to be sliding out. It was just supposed to be in the corner, but I realized that wasn't going to work. There was just not enough space. So I decided that was just impractical, because also I needed to move everything in my kitchen every time I needed to use the loo. So that was just going to be a nightmare. So all I did was put my porta potty on a base that I can slide in and out, and then I used the extra space above that and created an additional drawer for tinned foods and things like that. So that worked out perfectly well. That was the only adjustment that I really made.
So looking back now, after doing the trip, what alterations would you do if you had to rebuild the van again?
I think the only alteration, so I have a panel on the side. If you're looking at the back of the van, and my bed, I have a panel on the right-hand side which has my electric panel on it, which for my lights and for my fan and for those, and gives me my USB charging, etc., which is great. But on the left-hand side, I have my cupboard. What happens is that in the intense heat, it doesn't give me a lot of air circulation at the back there. So if I did anything, I would just reduce the height of my cupboard so that I got a little bit of, sort of breeze across the back there. That's about the only thing that I would change.
Now, when one sits down to try and plot this actual adventure of 20,000 kilometres that you actually did, where do you start as far as the planning of it goes and what route you're going to take?
I think the one thing that I learned is that you can overplan. I'm very bad at detail. So what happened was that I planned a rough route without knowing too much about it. So again, ignorance played a huge part in this. And then I just went. I booked a ferry. I was coming up to time when I wanted to be in Africa for my 60th birthday, and I just had to book and go because I just wasn't getting everything done that I needed to do. So what I did, I booked the ferry. I sat for quite a while looking at the screen going, if I hit this button, I'm going. And then just decided, just do it. So that's what I did. And when I got to Morocco and you kind of hit Africa and the immense size of Africa, I had a very big, what I call, oh shit moment. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to do all of this. How am I going to plan all of this? Because I started to try to get more detail on things. And then I decided to do what I call eating the elephant. Not that I would ever eat an elephant. But metaphorically, the only way you can eat an elephant, because when you look at Africa, it's so immensely huge, you realize that the only way that you can actually tackle this is just by taking it in bite-sized chunks. So I started planning it and going, okay, so what do I need in this country for the next couple of countries? Do I need visas or whatever? What is my route for the next week? What's kind of coming up after that? And I started to look at it just in bite-sized pieces. Then 8.5 months later, I was in Botswana about to cross the border, and I went, geez, how did that happen? Because, I was so focused on just doing what's in front of me, so to speak, that before I knew it, I was there.
I'm interested to know, and I'm sure the listeners are, about the rate of self-development and confidence as you went on the trip. So, for instance, I had a guest on the show the other day who's just cycled across the world, and he was talking about the different stages of his own self-development on that journey, and he became more intuitive on places where to stay and what to watch out for and all those sorts of things. So I'm interested to know what was the rate of your self-assurance and confidence as you took on this trip.
I'm 60. I've got quite a lot of life experience, but so I have developed and worked on my self-confidence and my self-esteem a lot. But what I realized before I left was that I actually had been lacking through various life circumstances in my self-worth, which meant that I kept attracting the wrong people into my life. And that was something I knew I needed to change. Plus, having been in a marriage for 22 years and coming out of that very unhappy with myself and my life and everything else, I felt that I wanted to do this journey because a lot of people say, why don't you just catch a plane? Well, because that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the journey because I needed to do the journey. I needed to not only wanted to do the external journey, but I needed to do the internal journey. What happened was that I found my joy. I in the small things, the waving at children as I passed them, making a joke with the sort of fifth police stop, just funny little things that would happen along the way that started to get me laughing again and enjoying the simple things, enjoying a fresh mango, a fresh bought at the side of the road, just little things like that. Not so much confidence, but I found my joy and I found a great pleasure in the simple things. I met amazing, wonderful people and kind people, and so that was my latest personal experience.
So it really was a healing adventure as much as anything.
Absolutely. I think out of all that come through 20,000 kilometers, feeling a lot more clear about myself. I tend to overcomplicate my life, so I try to keep it simple. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about other people. I've learned that, kindness and respect gets you an awfully long way with people. And, it's also, I always believe that give people what you want and you'll get it yourself.
I'd like to touch on that because you talk about dropping the concept of New Year's resolutions and taking on a new philosophy, which you're just talking about now in terms of goodwill to all people. And can you talk us a little bit more about some of the actual experiences that you had where the old you, I guess, was put aside and the new you came out and you, I guess, benefited? And I'm not talking whether it be financially or anything else economically from that, but maybe spiritually from that.
I have endured more unhappy festive seasons, Christmases and New Year's. And one of the years that before I started the journey, but while I was planning the journey, I found myself entirely and utterly alone for that whole festive period. And I was kind of stressed about it, but then I realized that I was stressed about it because everybody else's expectation is that you should be doing something, you should be with people, whatever. I made my own decision that I am not spending Christmas with anybody I don't want to spend it with. I would rather be alone. I am quite happy with my own company and I would rather be alone. So that's when I decided that this whole season of goodwill that happens once a year was something that I actually wanted to bring into my life every single day. So that's what I try to do. And I practiced that and I had lots of practice. So just, the African people are such wonderful, wonderful people that it was easy to do in that way. Because when you smile at them, they smile back at you. When you wave at them, they wave back at you. When you make a funny face at them, they usually laugh, so, and I got the most immense pleasure out of the thing that works for me was that just treating people with respect and kindness. What happens is when you ask somebody's name and you remember their name and you look them in the eye and you shake their hand, shaking hands is very important in Africa, that it transforms them. I got so many instances where people said to me, you are very kind. And, you are a very nice person. And I said, they'd known me for like 2 minutes. And I would say, you don't know that. And they'd say, no, I know that. And that was, for my self-worth, the thing that I was lacking, that filled me up. So that's why I say, when you give something, so by the giving of respect and kindness to other people, I gained an insight into my self-worth.
Was it extra special because your whole notion of this adventure was to go home? And once you hit the continent of Africa and started to have these interactions with African people again, was that extra special for you?
Immensely. Before I left, a lot of people would say to me, oh, but are you not scared of Africa? It's the dark continent and I hope you're taking a gun and I hope you've got knives. And I was like, man, I don't have any of that stuff. I believe 100% in the warm heart of Africa. I believe 100% in the goodness of the people of Africa. Africa suffers with this bad, notion that everybody here is bad and there's lots of everything bad happens in Africa. And that is just so not true. People are amazing. People are people all over the world. There are good people and there are bad people. And the majority of the people in Africa are just the kindest, nicest, warmest people that you will ever meet.
When you touched down in Morocco, to use the phrase, where did you go to from there? And for people that are not too familiar with the African continent, can you explain some of the directional changes you took?
You look at the map of Africa, it's described by us Africans as the bulge of Africa, which is sort of the big knobby bit on the left. The armpit of Africa, which is sort of the bit where it curves, it comes in and curves down. So I came into Africa at the top at Tangier from Barcelona. I took a ferry to Morocco. And then I drove around Morocco quite a bit. I spent a month in Morocco getting what I call my Africa feet, because I knew it was going to be a change. It was also far away from everybody that I knew. I was in a strange place on a continent that I didn't really know this part of, at least. So I took my time and I didn't rush myself. I let myself kind of settle down. And I saw some amazing places, again, met some incredible people. And then I went from Morocco, you come down south and Morocco isn't all desert. I thought, it was all desert. It's not. It's got beautiful green areas. The Atlas Mountains are amazing.
Mm.
And then I came, headed down into what used to be Western Sahara and is now Morocco. And that is mostly desert and terrible winds. So there was a lot of wind crossing from my left to my right across the ocean, and I was heading south.
Mm.
Then I came into Mauritania, which was probably the poorest country that I came across. It's so poor that donkeys eat cardboard. It's eye-wateringly poor.
Mm.
From Mauritania, I came into Senegal, then into Gambia, Gambia actually sits in the middle of Senegal along the Gambia River. Then I came out of Gambia back into Senegal briefly, into Guinea-Conakry. I would say that Dakar in Senegal and Guinea-Conakry were some of the most crazy cities to drive through ever. People who complain about traffic, please go try Guinea-Conakry, Conakry in Guinea and Dakar. So from Guinea, and I saw Guinea has the most beautiful rainforest, tropical rainforest, and I saw chimpanzees in the wild, which was a great gift. Then I went into Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire, I traveled down towards traveled down towards the coast into Ghana. I traveled around the Volta River in Ghana, was very interesting. It was an English-speaking country, so I spent more time there, which gave me the chance to speak English again after my appallingly bad French. From Ghana, I went to Togo, and then after Togo, Benin, and then from Benin into Nigeria, across this GPS, no man's land, going across that route took me into what they call the plateau in Nigeria, which was the most pristine, incredible landscape I've ever seen in my entire life. It was just beautiful beyond understanding. Then into Cameroon, where the roads were incredibly bad. There was still mud on the roads, and because I literally drove through rivers in my little 2x4 and across roads that you could imagine. Through Cameroon, I came out the other side of Cameroon into Gabon. Gabon was the most beautiful equatorial rainforest, just the most beautiful rainforest I've ever seen. And I haven't really seen rainforest, but through all the other countries, I saw bits of rainforest. Gabon just exceeds all expectations. From Gabon, I came into, again, across an appallingly bad road where I had to be towed because I couldn't drive through the mud. Into the Republic of Congo, down the Republic of Congo towards the coast, and then into Cabinda, which is part of Angola, is a sort of a little enclave of Angola on the north shore of, it sort of sits above the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Angola sits below the Democratic Republic of Congo. So from Cabinda, I drove through the Democratic Republic of Congo, then into Angola, which is immensely beautiful. I had not expected it to be quite so beautiful because it had suffered a tragic war for a very long time. Then into Namibia and across the Caprivi Strip, which is the little strip of land that you see on the map of Namibia, into Botswana, and then into Zimbabwe.
Extraordinary. Now, you talked about the conditions of the roads in different places then. How was the climactic impact throughout your whole trip? Was there really punishing conditions from a heat perspective, but also from a wet weather perspective?
The heat is something that nothing prepares you for. It is so immensely hot. The weirdest thing is that the temperature might be, I don't know, 26, 28 degrees, which is not exceptional, but the humidity can be up to 88%. And it is punishing. I used to get up really early in the morning. As soon as sun would rise, I would be on the road because it was the coolest part of the day until 11 o'clock. And then after that, you would just sweat.
Yep.
And sweat and sweat and sweat. And that was it. And that happened all the way down through to Angola. And in Angola, it started to cool down, which was amazing, which was beautiful, especially at night, because the heat is intense all day, all night. It was punishing. For me, I'm not a young chicken anymore. And while I can stand the heat, the humidity is the thing that really slayed me.
As a result of that, what about things like insects and things? Were they prevalent throughout the evening in particular?
The mosquitoes were. Mosquitoes love me. Love me. I could be wearing 5 mosquito repellents at the same time, and they would still be eating me alive. Until I found one with DEET in Angola, and after that was fine. But so were the mosquitoes were also going down because I was coming into winter into the southern hemisphere. But mosquitoes were my main thing. I mean, anything that bites me. That's all there is to it. But mosquitoes were punishing. So I was often, as soon as the sun was going down, I would take in my van with my mosquito nets up because I couldn't be outside. It would just eat me alive.
Was there any injuries or insect-related diseases that you had to endure during the trip?
Miraculously, I did not get malaria. I have no idea how I managed to escape that. So that was a miracle in itself. I believe it was lots of vitamin C and silver water, a colloidal silver, which I swear by. The other thing that I got a very bad burn on an exhaust of a motorbike. I just literally turned around and I was just too close to the motorbike and I burnt my leg. It got very, very bad within a week, and I eventually stopped traveling and just spent 5 days in a campsite just tending it 3 times a day and sorting it out. And then I could continue. I think the thing is with the humidity and the heat and the dust and dirt that's always around, never take any kind of wound likely. So that I fixed that eventually, as I said, with colloidal silver and with aloe vera, my 2 favorite things. And really, I mean, I had bruises constantly, and those sorts of scratches and scrapes. Yeah, I fell over a couple of times, and as one does. I had a lot of problems with my shoulder. I fell before I actually left Barcelona, and I had a lot of trouble all the way through. I missed a step in the dark, and I fell flat on my face, and I hurt my shoulder. I spent that plagued me for most of my journey, regrettably, but it's just a matter of resting it whenever I could.
Given that you were taking on such an audacious adventure, did you have a medical kind of plan in place in case something did go wrong?
I had insurance. I definitely took out insurance. While it cost me an arm and a leg, it was something that I didn't think that I should be without. So I had, medical insurance and that sort of thing. Should I have needed it? I think I did a risky thing, but I wasn't stupid. I made sure that I had done the things that were necessary to do.
I'm sure there was plenty of light-hearted moments along the trip. I've actually got one of my favourite ones from watching what you were up to, and it involves a Eurythmics song and a rendition of that, and I might actually get you to sing that on the show today. But can you tell us about any other...
No, that's not going to happen.
So can you share with us any other light-hearted moments that you either caught yourself out or you shared with other people along the way?
I mentioned Dakar and Conakry, and I didn't mention Lagos. I got lost in Lagos in peak hour morning traffic. Anyhow, one of the things that I learned to do in the big cities, or even in the smaller ones where there was just mayhem with taxis and buses and donkeys and goats, and so what I would do was I would play my music. I have a music card and just whiz through until I found something that had a good beat and a tempo, and I would just sing and jive in my seat while I was driving. And they used to the people passing me used to think that I was completely insane. First of all, I'm probably the only white woman within hundreds of kilometers, and here I am singing and dancing, in my car to music. And I got the most amazing responses from them. They would smile, they would wave, they would laugh at me, they would imitate me, and I used to have a ball. And I always drove with my window open. Sort of half open so that nobody could reach in and grab anything. But I was always having conversations with people. So in Nigeria, in Lagos, in the hawkers in the streets while you're waiting for traffic, they would be trying to sell you stuff, and then I would be having banter with them, and that was always amazing. It was always great fun. I mean, the people. One of the things I want to say is people go, "Oh, Nigerians, criminals, drug lords, etc." I had the most amazing time with the people in Nigeria. They were incredible. They were funny. They were humorous. They were kind. They were welcoming. They were just amazing.
Carrying on that same theme of talking about the outpouring of support of humanity in your adventure, you've also been surprised, I read, about the amount of people all over the world that have reached out to you to offer support in all kinds of different ways.
I cannot, it's how do I say this? It's been overwhelming. People that have been complete and utter strangers have sent me money. I didn't have a lot of money. I left. I didn't have enough money to go. I was just like, here I am on a wing of prayer. I'm going. I'm sure that it may work for everybody, but I can only say that my angels and guardians were total overtime getting me here. And people were just so immensely kind and encouraging, and it was amazing. It was. I'm still at a response people had to me. I also, people hosted me, people let me stay in their homes, didn't know me from a bar of soap, but let me stay in their homes. It was like, you don't even know who I am, but here, so, it was amazing. It was a humbling experience. I can honestly say that.
What do you think the connection was?
I don't know, maybe I appealed to the lunacy within people.
I was thinking more of the vulnerability side of it all.
I never think of myself as vulnerable, but I really, honestly, I don't know. I am, as I say, just completely. If I could bottle it, I could make a million. But yeah, it was really incredibly humbling, and people were immensely. I can't say what it was that made that way. I just think that. A lot of them were women. I mean, there were even men who were saying, wow, amazing, So the feedback that I got from a lot of people was that I was doing what they knew that they would never be able to do or dare to do. They felt like I had taken them on the journey with them, with me. So, and that was great. That made me feel like super good about that. I was delighted to be able to share. It was one of my missions as soon as I started to realize that there were stories and things, and I wanted to share the real Africa, not just here's a beautiful building, and here's a lovely statue, and here's a beautiful beach and a tree and whatever have you, but just to share the stories of my everyday kind of existence with people, and the people I met, and the kindness that I received, and the problems that I had. And I just started to tell my story online, and people responded to it.
How's that affected your creativity? Have you been always one to do a lot of photography and writing and things? Is that something that's been more evident as a result of this trip?
I'm a crap photographer. If you look at my photographs, you will see that I am a crap photographer. Not only that, it's impossible to drive and take photographs. It was, at first I started taking photographs. I would be like, okay, oh, stop, look, something else to photograph. Oh, look, stop, I was like, I'm never going to get anywhere if I keep stopping every 5 minutes. It's just impossible. So I was like, okay, if I can't take the photograph, well, then I can't. And if it's a bad photograph, well, then it's a bad photograph. Getting a camera out and using a camera was beyond my means. Because remember that I was driving alone, so it was me, and I had to do the fix the vehicle, fill the water, clean the dishes, make food, look after myself, check the routes. Everything was me only. So, photography kind of went, when it happens, if it's good, fantastic. If it's not, well, too bad. In terms of writing, everybody's always said that I've been a good writer. And certainly I would love to be able to do more of that. And everybody's encouraging me to write the book. I'm working on it. When I get electricity.
Well, good news. Put me down for a pre-order. I'd love a copy of the book. You've arrived back in Zimbabwe at a very significant time of the country's history. So can you tell us what you came across when you got back to Zimbabwe?
I haven't told a lot of this story online because I've tried very hard throughout my journey to show people the good side of what's going on in Africa and the good people that are in Africa. And certainly the people in Zimbabwe are exceptional. I love them beyond words. They are just so amazingly wonderful, kind, incredible people despite the most horrific circumstances. So before I left Europe, before I came upon this idea, Mugabe was still in place, but I knew that I was going to be able to regain my birthright, and that was one of my initiatives, was to come back here to get my birthright back, to get a passport. In between that time, Mugabe had been ousted. There was a coup, as some people call it, and his vice president took over. Regrettably, that seemingly has been an even worse change for, if it was ever possible that things could get worse for Zimbabwe, it has. So I have come back to our daily life here in Zimbabwe it's winter. So the rains, if there are rains, should come in October, November, December. It is very dry at the moment. The rains have not been significant for the last few years. So people are running out of water. The municipalities, you can open the tap once a week and get water. The quality of that water is like a muddy pond. So that's water you get once a week. A lot of people exist off borehole water, and people the poorer people have local pumps. There are pumps in areas where people carry water. Electricity, the power cuts on electricity because nobody has looked after the infrastructure. So there's plenty of water, but unfortunately the infrastructure means that the pipes have crumbled and there is no way to get the water from the source to the cities. The electricity power cuts, again, because of infrastructure, are now somewhere between 14 to 24 hours a day. So there are days that you just don't get electricity at all. And if you consider that everybody's like, consider your life without electricity for 24 hours, and then extend that by sometimes 3 days, and you have no power for your laptop, no power for your computer, no power for your fridge, no power for your freezer, no power to cook, no air conditioning, just everything that you think of, no TV, it's affected, obviously, the poorer people the worst because there's just no electricity. None. Fuel, there are constant fuel shortages. To get fuel, you have to sit in a queue for several hours. The price of fuel has just gone up again by about 50 US cents a litre. Everything is estimated in US dollars, but everything is supposed to be in Zimbabwe bond. So you can't get Zimbabwe bonds. It's almost impossible to get cash money. You deal in like money on your phone, and that's how you deal with stuff. prices are spiraling out of control. Spiraling out of control. I mean, a couple of a jar of instant coffee, which is about, I don't know, 3 or 4 euros in Europe, is 2 to 3 times the cost here.
Wow.
And that's instant coffee, for God's sake. Nobody can afford that. People can't even afford to buy bread anymore because the price has gone up so much. Then that's when there is bread, because there's seldom flour.
Sounds pretty desperate. So what's your plan? You know, you're not back home yet in Bulawayo. So what's your plan when you actually get home?
Well, I've been in Bulawayo.
Oh, you have.
I'm up. I was there for a few weeks, and then I came up to Harare. I'm here because I have a girls' fund. My passion is girls' education, into higher education, to prevent them living lives of poverty or going into child marriage. And I'm here at a project trying to raise funds, trying to raise money, trying to see what's possible, what's not possible, and to get my documentation. When I go back to Bulawayo, I don't know. I mean, I'm fortunate that I still have a trickle of funds that come from Europe, so I have money that I can access. I just don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. All I do know is that I'm going to make this project happen with girls' education, because it's critical to the future of this country. Educating girls is a solution for any number of reasons, which I won't bore you all with today. But the sooner we get lots of girls educated, the faster we can actually bring this country back into some semblance of normalcy. What the future holds for Zimbabwe, I don't know, but people are hungry. I mean, unlike many other African countries where they see me as a white person and they think I have money and they just ask me for money, here the people will try to sell you something. They will try to, ask you to buy anything that they possibly have. And only if you cannot buy from them will they say to you, do you have any food, because I'm really hungry. I mean, people are literally hungry on the street, and they're trying to sell whatever they can possibly sell. So I try to support all the street vendors and the car parking guards, and if I have apples or oranges, I always get a few extras so that I can give them to people when I see them, so that I have something to give them. It's very sad, and it is very real. And I haven't spoken about it on my Facebook page as yet, because I don't have the words to describe how badly I feel about, how I feel about this, or what I believe. All I can say is, come visit Zimbabwe. If you're a tourist, don't worry about the shortages or don't worry about any of that. Just come visit Zimbabwe. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you get with anything, contact me. I will make a plan. I will find a person. I will get things done for you. Seriously, come visit Zimbabwe. It is the most beautiful country, the most amazing people. Visit us.
Fantastic offer there. Now, before I let you go today, there's a couple of things that I want to ask you. The first one is, if it's possible, and I'm sure you're able to articulate this for me, but how would you summarize the impact this trip's had on you as a human being?
Just a small question. Wow. It's made me more insightful, more tolerant, given me a much better understanding. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to go, because I know how easy it is to criticize Africa. I've been one of those people. And when you drive through Africa, you realize that the shortcomings are not all their shortcomings. There are many things that impact the situation in Africa. But it has made me very much more aware, very much more, I can now talk about Africa from a completely different perspective. And I'm grateful for that experience, because it's made me understand more deeply and be more empathetic and, get a much clearer idea.
Fascinating. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about this one, so I better ask you before I let you go, is what's happening to Blue Bell? Is it going to be sold, or are you going to keep it?
I've had many offers. Listen, I got proposals, marriage proposals, like you cannot believe, all the way through Africa. And I think Bluebell almost equals that in propositions that she got. So I get asked frequently, "Oh, nice car, you can sell it to me." My answer is, for $1 million US, she's yours. Okay. So that's not happening. I still live in her. I've had a lot of people offer me bedrooms and beds and apartments and places. I'm very happy inside Bluebell.
Yeah.
I have my freedom. I get around. Everything is where I know it is.
Yeah.
It's great. So all I need is a place to park and an occasional shower, if that's possible. That always makes my life easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still traveling around. I'm hoping to do a little tour of Zimbabwe as soon as I manage to get a reasonably good supply of fuel and take people along that journey, because I want people to see how beautiful this country is.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's been an absolute thrill for me and an honour for me to speak with you today and to listen about your story. I know that we could go on for several more hours. I know that my late grandmother would have been very inspired by you. So I thank you for sharing such your extraordinary story. I'm going to put in the description of the podcast today a number of links to your different activities so that if people want to support, they can do so. And I'm sure you'll be very welcoming and listening to hearing from other people that want to wish you well.
I would love to hear from people. It's my favorite evening pastime is or early morning, because I tend to wake up at like 4:30 as a habit now. Is to people want to contact me or write me, send me a message. That'd be great. My data always allowing, because that's also something else. But yes, please, thank you. It would be great to have people know a bit more about what I'm doing and my girls project, as well as what I'm doing around Zimbabwe. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about my journey and to share my story.
You're welcome, Dodd. I look forward to catching up with you in the not too distant future, and we can talk about some of your next adventures.
I welcome that. Thank you so much.
Okay then, bye for now. There we are. What an extraordinary story of Dot Bekker as she travelled by van from Spain down to Zimbabwe, 20,000 kilometres. There's something going on here with ladies in vans. We had Clarity Collins driving across South America in a van on the show, and now we've had Dot Bekker. Is there another lady out there doing a massive van trip across the world? If there is and you know about her, put her in touch with me. I'd love to have her on the show. Well, that's it for this episode. If you're looking for more episodes from the Global Travel Channel podcast show, head on over to our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. You can find them all there. We've done 53 episodes now. Or you can download them from iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and a host of other places that you'll find listed on our website. And don't forget, we do have a Patreon page. We are doing this not just for love, but we're trying to make this show sustainable, so any contributions you can add will be gratefully received. Okay, well that's it for this one. My name is Mark Philpott. Until next time, I wish you all bon voyage.